I'm really honored to be part of the Gibson family.
I'm very proud when I take folks in for a tour to see how amazed they are at what we do and how we do it.
What sets Gibson apart is the relentless pursuit of making music, building instruments that feel, sound, dialed in.
One of my favorite parts of my day, my week, is when I get to go to our crafteries, our factories, like we call them crafteries, and I see the level of passion that goes into making Gibsons. It's pretty remarkable to see how it translates from an individual that has a passion for music, and that individual puts everything into the task of making the instrument.
There's been a sequence of very high-profile artist models that we've been entrusted to do. Speaking back to the engagement and passion of our team members here, they did grow up listening to some of these artists that we have this huge opportunity to occasionally see walk in the door, and that can be hugely impactful. The sequence of artist series that we do at a custom shop challenge us, particularly if they're reproductions or a particular aging process or pattern or exact duplicate of a very, very famous guitar for a very famous artist.
Whenever we do a signature model, you know, I'm there from the inception. It's not usually my idea, you know, I don't have the gall to go, hey, we should do a signature model. They'll go, hey, would you mind doing a signature model of this particular guitar that you're using? And so I just want to make sure that it has the integrity of the original and has the same hardware, and it has, you know, the same wood and a lot of the same, you know, features technically and also aesthetically, you know, so that it looks right. So I'm there for all of it.
I love the guitars. Before I actually had my own signature guitar, I did this video with Gibson for my channel where we walked through the factory making an ES335 that they surprised me with. At the end of the video, they actually gave me the guitar. So it was such a proud moment for me that I ended up wanting to use that guitar. The fact that it was tied in with that experience of being there as it was made, getting that great support from them, and then also the wonderful gift. And then my viewers connected to that story so much. The video did really well. And so I think it was exciting and also a bonding experience for me and my audience to see me use the guitar in all my lessons all the time as much as possible.
We had Lizzy Hale, who's our first female ambassador, an amazing musician who we've been working with for over a decade. We've had several projects with her. We have her band Hailstorm. We did a meet and greet in-store here at the Gibson Garage in Nashville for Lizzy's Kramer model, and we had people coming through the line. All they wanted to do was stand in front of Lizzy and say, I worked on your guitar. I just want to thank you for what you've done. It was such an honor to be a part of this, and seeing her reaction to the people who made her guitar and seeing their reaction to her. It's one of those really special moments where you just go, this is why we're all doing it. This is why somebody in the factory who got to put the finishing touches on this Lizzy Hale guitar is getting up and coming to work every day.
Here you have Cesar coming to the factory and getting his hands dirty, making sawdust, working on guitars. That says a lot. It says a lot to the folks on the floor in the factory. It gives them so much respect for Cesar. And he's not doing it just for that. He's doing it because he's that passionate and he wants to learn, because it will help him do what he needs to do and understand all the details and intricacies of what goes on in the factory.
And I see it every week. I'm in our crafteries on a weekly basis. In fact, I've been building guitars with their help. And every step of the way, in my experience over the last year and a half, where I've been actually building on Friday mornings with the help of everybody, this is not just me doing it on my own. I would never be able to do that. Jim DeCola, our master luthier, and I have now built one, and we're in the process of building another one. And that has multiple purposes. On one hand, I'm interested in building an instrument and learning, continuing to learn every step of the way that goes into how to make a Gibson guitar. But also it gives me an opportunity to talk, communicate, engage, learn from our craftsmen and women in our crafteries. That's my favorite part of my role.
Stemming from like the first rounds of ever even coming to Gibson, coming to the factory, Jim DeCola, Richard Akers, there's a crop of these guys that they had a kind of grace about them that like they were almost like wizards. It's a lot to take in, you know, going into the custom shop, going into USA, seeing this happen and then asking these guys questions. And ultimately, the coolest part about it, it makes it more special when you actually go to play. You're like, oh yeah, this is my guitar, you know? Like, I know where this thing's made. I know who put the frets on this guitar. I know who did the finish. And it just makes it more special. It feels more personal to me every time I pick it up and make music on it, because making music is the most personal thing that I have in my life. So to pick up a Gibson and know the people that made it, it's incredible.
A lot of people think, because it's our largest factory, that it's just a big machine. You put wood in and spit out guitars, right? But once they come in and see it for themselves, they see, yeah, we do utilize a lot of CNC machinery, lasers, and things like that are very high tech. However, there's a lot of tasks that we do here that you just can't automate. So we'll CNC machine bodies and necks, you know, to a certain point. We CNC a neck, it goes through two processes, two major CNC different operations, right? And then afterwards, after the fingerboard's glued on, we have to hand roll that final neck shape and blend that final shape into the fingerboard, into the headstock, into the heel of the neck. That all has to be done by hand. So our outlook is, you let that technology give you the capacity and the accuracy and the speed that you need for those tasks, but it also affords us to bank people doing the handwork that needs to be done. So it's that balance.
One of the first things I was struck by was when Mark gave me a tour through Gibson USA. I've been in a factory, I know how guitars are made. And what Mark walked me through in USA actually changed my entire perspective about what I thought Gibson was. I didn't really recognize how extraordinarily handmade these instruments were. You watch somebody do rope binding for 15, 20 minutes and realize that that's an art form in and of itself that has been around forever. To watch guitars trade hands from station to station, I walked out of that scenario understanding that I had a real responsibility to pay tribute to the people that work in our crafteries every day, who are putting all of their time and attention into the most minute details in order to make the perfect instruments.
Our CNC machines are super accurate, and if we were making guitars out of plastic and metal, we could fit it so precisely that they just snap together and we glue it and we're done. However, because of wood being an organic material, it can expand and contract. Even though we go to great extents to equilibrate our wood, through kilns, we have a dozen or so wood drying kilns in our factory, and it does equilibrate and equalize that moisture content. However, it's organic, so the humidity in the factory, and we control that as well, but it can still move. We have to have the neck fitters hand fit each neck to that body with a chisel, old school. Binding is the same way. That's another craft that they take at least 2 months to learn how to bind a guitar. And we do the old school rope method like we've done ever since we were building guitars. And it takes on average probably 2 months to train these guys, because every wrap is a sequence that has to be replicated. It's not just a random sequence. So it takes a great deal of time to learn that for each model, but it has to be done that way. So again, it's a balance of using that technology where it's applicable and then using the hand skills, where it's absolutely required. And we're very proud of that.
If you think about innovation, which is in our DNA, there's always been different levels of innovation. That's why we started the Gibson Labs. And innovation is not just in terms of what we're going to be bringing as a feature to the instrument, which we're always testing in the lab, testing resonance and testing how the different components, tone woods, electronics react with each other. It's also about how we deliver the experience. When you think about the Murphy Lab, that experience of playing a vintage instrument that not only looks vintage, not only looks like it was made in the 50s, but it also sounds and feels that way. That's innovation. that we started, as you know, in what we call the Gibson Custom Shop Murphy Lab a couple of years ago. And we're always trying to push the limits on what else can we incorporate into the Gibson Custom Shop Murphy Lab. One of the most important roles I play is to identify those exceptional individuals and appoint them to the right roles. And that creates a bit of a cycle because those A players want to work with A players. And so you start creating a group of A players that want to work with A players, and that kind of fulfills, and that basically is just feeding itself.
In 92-ish at the USA factory, I had worked in a finishing repair area. I went to the finishing department and repair. And one day, because I think my reputation of having old guitars, going to guitar shows and events, they approached me and said, do you want to be part of a sort of experiment with at that time it was called dealer custom, meaning a dealer could request a deviation. And just myself and one other guy were asked to be part of it. We did guitars on spec. We'd go to guitar shows with stuff people had never seen before. At the very same time, I was asked to a meeting where I expressed that we should address the 59 Les Paul reissue. Nobody else has done this before because it's such a visible guitar, and the specifications at that time were not very, very accurate. So there was two things going on at the same time, creating the historic product as well as this dealer custom thing. And that all really blended together and became the custom shop. Now today in this facility, we make virtually every model from the golden era. I've been associated with that product since 1993. And we used to joke, the only thing missing was it doesn't look old. I left the company in late 94, had a shop in Southern Illinois where the phone rang off the hook for me to refinish guitars, especially historic Les Pauls, reshoot tops, and restoration. In that restoration, I added an artificial weather checking to blend a refinished neck to an original body. Well, one day in 97, I thought, well, here we go. I know it's going to happen, so I might as well do it. I aged an entire Les Paul. All of a sudden, everyone wanted their historic Les Paul to look old. That lasted a year before Gibson called and said, hey, let's think about doing this together. And so we worked that out, and as of 99, I was the only person aging a Gibson historic Les Paul. As we all know, there are some new people came in, a whole new group. It came into Gibson in 18 and 19. They recruited me to work full-time inside the factory, which I hadn't done in 20 years. I had discovered a new process for aging, which I was really excited about. I actually planning to keep it for myself, but it worked out so great that in them recruiting me, I brought that. And the quote I always use is, I said, that's the future, meaning that's how we'll age Gibsons. And that process is used in the Murphy Lab now.
I worked at USA when I first started almost 13 years ago. When I was a binder, I worked down there 6-7 years, and I used to draw funny pictures and stuff on the whiteboard, and one day they just asked me, Rick, you can draw, can't you? And I said, sure. And they had me do some stuff, and honestly, it was kind of the beginning ideas of the Gibson garage, and they had me draw some stuff up, and one thing led to another, and they needed a guitar carved, and I thought I could do it. I asked them to let me take a guitar body home, and I spent all winter working on it. I just bought some chisels. I hadn't carved before, but I taught myself how to carve, and said, well, let me take something else home, and then they gave me another body, and after the second one, they asked me if I wanted to be the artist. Everybody knows that I like flowers. If I can't think of anything else, or have a blank piece of paper or a blank guitar, usually, sometimes I draw it out, but a lot of times I just start with the body, you know. I'll almost always start just curves or whatever, and if nothing else hits me, I draw and carve and paint flowers. Nobody can just hate flowers. Oh, I just hate that. It's a safe go.
Everybody from the product development team to, you know, everybody in buffing at the factory, everybody has their own kind of unique story as it relates to music as a whole.
I'm super grateful to be in this position, but to serve the global community of artists around the world with these inspiring instruments that you just are motivated to get up and play guitar, I think is really the fulfillment of all of us in this Gibson, Epiphone, and Kramer family.
When you engage that exceptional group of individuals, that team, in then recruiting the next level of leaders and extended leaders in the company, then the result is going to be we're going to find amazing people that are really passionate about joining Gibson.